And howdy folks, welcome to the next video in our SDK 101 series. This time we're touching on the video streams component, I would say a highly underutilized SDK component for broadcasts because it can be a little overwhelming at first. And I think the way it's designed is a little different than how I use it and how most of you might use it. So we're going to run through it, and I'm going to show you how to use it with as little effort as possible, which also includes no camera management whatsoever during your stream. You just kind of set it up ahead of time and everything's ready to go. So there is a really nice detailed article about the video streams component on the SDK wiki on their website, but it is just there's a lot going on. It gives you more flexibility than I think you need, and maybe a little more technical details than the average user needs to know about. And so we're just going to touch on the basics. Two things. There is a link you give out to the drivers. All you need to do is make sure you have a room name. If you don't know what a room name is and you don't know how to set one up, check out our other video on how to set up a room name in SDK. You set up the URL, you post it in the league's Discord and say, hey, everybody, if you want your video, your webcam on the broadcast, go click this. All they do is put this in, basically just put in their name and the room name. But if you put the room name in the URL, it populates itself. So all they have to do is type in their name and pick a camera. It's not that hard. You'll find even drivers that are pretty lazy are really willing to do those two steps to get their picture on the broadcast. Especially for interviews and things like that. So, but it is important that they put in their name as it is in iRacing, not their like iRacing handle like Max Dinda 23, but their first and last name, Max Dinda, because SDK is going to automatically match that name to the drivers in the session to decide which drivers to show. So they do that. They can display like a preview of their webcam, but that wastes bandwidth for them. They don't want that, right? They don't want their iRacing network stats touched on. So that's the first step. Give these out to the drivers and instruct them on how to put in their name. Not too hard. The second thing you're going to do is open up the Cameraman web app. Both of the links here can be found in that video streams wiki site on the SDK. If you just kind of look around real quick, any driver that has done that will show up in this list, and there's some options to go with it, as well as a preview if you want to double check that driver's webcam is working, but you don't want to show that as it does waste some network on your side. No reason to do that during your broadcast. There's the other piece of this is you're going to type in your room name and a username, and that is important because you actually have to give yourself credentials in SDK to control the cameras. And the easiest way to do that is open up your settings, come down to the overlay section, look for variable access credentials. If you've never used this before, this is a tool within SDK to let you give certain variable access to people outside of you. So let's say you needed a race control that's operating remotely to be able to do the race control component, which if you've never used that is another underutilized tool in broadcasting when you have multiple people in the booth producing. In this example, that person would then have access to put things on your screen through the race control component to say so-and-so got a penalty, so-and-so got an EOL, whatever. In this case, we need to use the overlay level of access. So you type in a username in this credentials list. If it's for you, it doesn't matter. If it's for someone else, just make sure it's something you can give to them. And then put overlay in the variable filter, and that will give them pretty much all-powerful access to controlling your things if they're using the remote web app, which is a conversation for another day. For the webcams, you're just going to put in a username and overlay. Then you're going to put that same username in here when you activate this, then enter the room. I found that when I bookmarked this link, the room name actually stays in memory, so I don't type that in, and the username, I don't type them in when I do it. So pre-race, I'm just opening this up, hitting enter room, and before I kick off the stream, I'm looking to see how many drivers I've got, and maybe checking if their webcams are working with the preview. and that's about it there. Then the last thing you're going to do before you start your broadcast is you're going to come in here, and there's a bunch of options here. You don't need to know what the numbers do. The numbers put this specific driver's webcam on screen in a specific place, and you have to do style overrides to get those locations to do what you want. Forget those. We're going to keep it simple. We're just going to use the profile picture, or I'm not sure what you got, the little user here. We're going to click that for all the drivers, assuming you've checked that their webcam is kosher for a broadcast and it's working. Click that. What this does is it tells SDK anytime you're using the driver details component or my CDSN plugins that use the webcam, that when this driver is selected, I want you to show their video. So right now we've got just one example. I'm using a replay, and I've assigned myself my webcam right now to Max Dinda, and I'm going to click that, and that lets SDK do that. That's it. So pre-race, you do this, and you're done. You don't need to look at that again. Just keep it minimized and running. You don't have to select cameras. You don't have to hide this guy's camera and show that one, or put them into a scene if you've ever used Video Ninja, or do extra work in OBS or anything. You're just going to let SDK seamlessly integrate those videos. So right now I've got Ryan LZ selected. I'm going to switch over to Max Dinda, and I've got two components up. The bottom left is the SDK standard driver details component, but I've got driver video selected. The one on the bottom right is my driver deep dive plugin, which does something similar, shows the video a little bit bigger. And if I switch to Dinda, you'll see, boom, both components add the video where it's supposed to be. And I don't have to do anything outside of SDK to make that happen. That's kind of the point of all this. Is in previous attempts that I've gone through to use the video component, I've gotten lost in the other 5 options and frames of where to put the video and how to manage it and how to get it to automatically pick the driver I want without having to reopen that cameraman app and click through things or change things. This is automatic. When I'm in a race and I've got multiple drivers with video, when you click through, both the plugin and the SDK component automatically hide the video frame if the driver doesn't have it, and then automatically show it if they do. So this will work for in-race. It works. I like to jump on board with someone for a restart and see their webcam. I love to do post-race interviews with a driver, being able to share their video. It's just super cool. And once drivers do this once and realize this is not going to kill their network bandwidth, this is not actually any extra work for them other than, the other 20,000 things they have to open and get ready for the race, this is probably the easiest. And if they see themselves featured in your broadcast on video, they're going to get excited. It's also fun if you have drivers that listen to the broadcast live and you put them up on screen and talk about them a little bit. So, they wave at the camera, give you a peace sign or whatever. That's pretty fun. I personally love to do that when a broadcast is looking at me. So I hope that takes some of the overwhelming complexity out of using this video component. There are more ways to use it, but like I said, this is quick and dirty, and it requires no extra handling during the broadcast to make it work.